All right, welcome to The Explainer. Today we are diving headfirst into Jeffrey Pfeffer's, let's just say, provocative book, Leadership BS. This is a book that doesn't just poke holes in our ideas about leadership, it pretty much takes a sledgehammer to all those feel-good myths we've been sold for years.
And this quote right here, it really gets to the heart of it. Pfeffer's whole argument is that the entire multi-million-dollar leadership industry, well, it's basically built on a fantasy. It's selling us this really inspiring but totally useless vision of leadership that just completely falls apart when it meets the real world of office politics and power plays.
So, first things first, we have to talk about what Pfeffer calls the great leadership lie. And believe me, it's an idea that's so deep-seated, it pretty much shapes everything we think we know about what a leader is supposed to be. You know the drill. We're always told to look up to leaders who are humble, honest, authentic. But, and this is the big but, Pfeffer's research shows a really stark contradiction. The people who actually succeed, the ones who claw their way to the top, they often act in the complete opposite way. So you have to ask yourself, what does that say about all the leadership advice we're constantly hearing? Okay, let's really dig into this idea, this myth of the virtuous leader. We all have this picture in our heads, right? The perfect boss. And it's that exact picture that a massive industry has sprung up to sell us. So this is the checklist we're given, right? Be honest, be humble, be authentic. The whole narrative is that these qualities are the magic keys to being a great leader. The message couldn't be clearer. If you just work on these things, success is basically a sure thing. But is that promise actually true? Okay, so that's the fantasy version. Now let's talk about the reality of power. And according to Pfeffer, it's a whole lot messier and a lot more uncomfortable. And wow, this slide just lays it all out, doesn't it? The myth versus the reality. It's the path we're told to follow versus the chaotic ladder people actually end up climbing. Pfeffer's point is that this link we assume exists between being a good person and being a successful leader, it's not just weak, it's dangerously misleading. Because in the real world, it's the results that get you rewarded, not how many virtues you checked off on your way there. And this imbalance, it creates a culture where the ends really do justify the means. The leaders who deliver the goods, even if their methods are, let's say, questionable, they're the ones getting the promotions and the big bonuses. It creates a system where all those virtues we just talked about, they become little more than lip service. So here's the really uncomfortable truth of it all. These behaviors we're taught are bad, manipulation, a little strategic dishonesty, aggressive self-promotion, they can actually be incredibly powerful tools for getting and keeping power. Things like managing your image carefully or knowing when to bend the truth. These aren't seen as moral failings in the cutthroat world of leadership. A lot of the time, they're just part of the toolkit you need to navigate the tricky politics of an organization. Which, of course, brings up a huge question. If this is what's really going on, why is all the leadership training we spend millions and millions of dollars on so completely useless at preparing people for it? I mean, think about it. Companies are pouring millions, sometimes billions of dollars into leadership seminars, workshops, you name it. And yet, Pfeffer points out that there is shockingly little hard evidence, like actual data, to show that any of it works, that it actually improves the quality of leadership in any real, meaningful way. And we're not just talking about a few bad programs here and there, no. Pfeffer's argument is that the entire leadership development industry is fundamentally broken. It's built on a flawed foundation, which means it's basically designed to fail from the get-go. So what's wrong with it? Well, for starters, it's way too idealistic. It's all about inspirational stories instead of hard truths. It's also super generic, a one-size-fits-all approach that doesn't help with the specific, messy political challenges leaders actually deal with every day. And maybe the biggest problem of all? There's no real accountability. Nobody's rigorously measuring if any of this training actually changes how people behave or gets better results. All right, so if the current model is totally broken, what's the answer? Well, Pfeffer doesn't just spend the whole book tearing things down. He actually offers a much more realistic path forward to, actually building better leaders. And Pfeffer's solution is pretty radical, actually. He says, stop trying to fix the leader's personality. Stop trying to make them more virtuous. Instead, fix the system they operate in. The focus shouldn't be on feel-good speeches and inspirational posters, but on changing the actual concrete rules and structures of the organization itself.
And this right here is a perfect illustration of that practical, evidence-based approach. It's all about changing the rules of the game. So step 1, you've got to create better metrics. Measure leaders on their long-term impact, not just on their charisma or some short-term win. Step 2, enforce real accountability. You need to have actual, robust systems in place to hold leaders responsible for what they do. And finally, step 3, reward the right behaviors. Redesign your incentive programs so they reward things like collaboration and sustainable success, not just hitting a financial target for one quarter.
And in the end, Pfeffer leaves us with this really powerful, provocative question. It really forces us to look at our own priorities. Should we be valuing leaders for who they are or for what they actually achieve? Maybe it's time we stop judging leaders based on their inspiring speeches and who they say they are, and start looking at the hard, measurable results of their actions. It's a tough question, for sure, but it's one we probably can't afford to keep ignoring.